Living in things like the pyramids mad, oh. Here I was, nigga, all hearts pumping red. Living in things like...
This is going to be episode 3. It should be episode 5, but unfortunately, as I kind of stated on Facebook, I really apologize about the delay. I just wanted to kind of take some time to just kind of cultivate and make sure that I was setting the good foundational basis for what I kind of want this channel to be in the long term, and just, you know, my potential quote-unquote brand in the near future as well. So I do again sincerely apologize about the delay on the last couple of videos, but this will basically be a upload, should a re-upload of the last video we did, the Chinese takeout. I did a little bit of promo for that as far as what we'll be servicing, but just to kind of run you through that really quickly again. Basically what we'll be doing is like my take on a General Tso's orange chicken kind of mashup. The sauce that I'm utilizing, or sauce that I'm making it rather, that's gonna go over just kind of like a homemade seitan that I make as well, that I basically adapted the recipe from another lady that I was kind of looking through some different seitan recipes, because the biggest thing with making your own seitan is it can be real hit or miss. Seitan, basically, if you're not familiar, is wheat gluten. And wheat gluten is like the spongy protein that's in like breads or starches. It's what gives bread kind of its bounce, its ability to kind of hold its shape and things of that nature. The gluten in itself is extremely high in protein. Of course, anyone that has like a gluten allergy or gluten sensitivity, I would not recommend utilizing this at all, being that it is like 78% gluten. So not good for any of our individuals that might have celiac disease or anything of that nature. Or like I said, a gluten intolerance, or what am I thinking of? Sensitivity. There we go. With that being said, basically the gluten protein, basically the more you knead it and the more that you basically mold the dough, the tighter and more constricting those gluten fibers actually become. Kind of allowing you to play with the texture of whatever meat you're utilizing. So you'll see that for one portion of it, I use a seitan that wasn't kneaded as much and has a much softer, gentler texture, more similar to like a chicken or a white meat per se. While the other one I almost use a totally different recipe for this. The seitan that I use for the General Tso's chicken is actually the same seitan recipe from my previous video. The recipe that I utilized there, so make sure you go check out that video if you need more information as far as what I put into that seitan recipe. But the recipe that I used for the beef really didn't take that much kneading, but the limited amount of moisture required basically for me to fold it maybe 3 or 4 times before those gluten fibers were really starting to develop and create a really nice protein structure. And you'll see the difference further in the video. I'll make sure that I kind of zoom in on the actual textural components between the 2 differentiations of the different types of seitan that I'll be working with today. Before I ramble on that too much, I'll get more into that into the video. But basically, so we have the General Tso's and the broccoli and beef, along with a General fried rice that we have as well. General fried rice. I'm just stumbling over my words, guys. Sorry, like I said, it's been a little minute. It's just a regular fried rice that, of course, is vegan. Most fried rice is vegan as well, but some do utilize oyster sauce. Mine, of course, does not. It's really quick, really simple. I make it all the time for my house personally. It's like one of the main things that we go to, because it's a great way to utilize day-old or 2-day-old rice and just a couple of quick veggies you might have in the freezer and a few things you have in your pantry. So it stretches, and you can really kind of do anything with it. It's a great, just kind of quick meal that you can throw together. That's going to be our main portion for today as far as for the meal. Now, along with that, we do have 2 bonus recipes. Now, these 2 bonus recipes I am going to keep for a surprise. You basically find out in the video what they actually are. One is related to the kind of menu options that we've already discussed earlier in the video, but one is honestly just one that I was in the process of looking. I was initially, before I settled on utilizing seitan for the General Tso's orange chicken, broccoli beef kind of vibe, I was looking at other supplements, because I'm always looking for different vegan options other than the traditional tofu, seitan, quinoa, the basics as far as what most vegans will utilize for a meat substitute. And that one I'm actually going to leave as a surprise, because I was super flabbergasted at like how good it was, considering what ultimately the main component is in it. Well, again, with further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the video. Last thing, I know that previously there's been some like sound issues, either with me speaking in competing with the music or with just overall the dynamics throughout the video. I'm speaking too fast, or there's not enough time throughout the video for you to really gather the next step before I go on. Again, as always, feel free to comment and let me know exactly what I can do to improve this. This is only my third video, so I definitely know I'm nowhere near where I want to be as far as dynamics and things of that nature related to this YouTube channel. But nevertheless, I do want to still grow, and best way for me to know is that for you guys' unbiased opinion, tell me exactly how this is being portrayed to you, how it's coming off. All those things are greatly welcomed. Again, with that being stated, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this video. We're just gonna head over into that way, and we're gonna head into the kitchen. Alrighty, so jumping right into it, I'm just gonna give you a quick kind of flash of what we should be expecting. The fried rice that you see in this thing is what we're going to jump into first. So what I've gone and done is I've gone ahead and just pre-prepared the rice. It's best to use day-old or 2-day-old rice that's kind of lost some of its moisture content. When you go ahead to frying it, it just really allows it to fry up a lot better. But again, if you don't have the time to kind of set out 2 days, you can do what I did and just prepare your rice normal. And then I just set mine in the refrigerator to kind of draw out some of that moisture and also to cool it down. Jumping from there, while that rice is cooling, we're going to go ahead and begin to prepare our seitan. Now, I'm preparing 2 different types of seitan this time. The one that you're looking at right now is the seitan that I'm going to be utilizing for my broccoli and beef. As you can see here, as I'm kind of playing with the texture here, it has a lot of bounce and give to it. It's actually going to be a firmer texture seitan than the other seitan that is actually just some of the seitan that I used for my previous recipe for the cookout that I just had some left over and frozen. It's a little bit softer. I'm going to use that one for the chicken, but this is the one for the beef. We're just going to go ahead and just try to roll this out a bit. Again, because this is so firm and kind of stretchy, so to speak, it's going to continue to pull back on you. So you're going to have to continue to work with it for a little bit. Just continue to rolling it out until, you got it far enough out to make the desired amount of cutlets. You also don't want to make this too thin, because when you go ahead and shape it into these cutlets, you're going to go ahead and wrap them into tinfoil, and they're going to double up in size. So thin enough to where they have some space to grow, but not so thin that you ended up with almost shredded beef kind of texture. Now, after I wrap each one of these in some tinfoil, I'm going to place them in a steamer basket over a pot of boiling water, which I've got going on here. Now, what this is going to do is that normally you're going to see me cook the seitan in 2 different ways. Because I want this to be a little bit firmer texture, I'm choosing to steam this outside of the water, versus here in a minute, you're going to see me utilize the smaller chunks of seitan that I'm using for the General Tso's chicken and placing that directly in the water. So I'm going to go ahead and let those steam away here for a second and move over to my other seitan. So as you can see here, I've got the seitan like nugget chunks, whatever the case may be, kind of boiling. Now, you can't really tell the texture here, but I'll kind of show a little bit in the future when I actually take them out of the pot. This is much, much softer and much, much truer give. I'm boiling these directly in some vegetable broth to have them kind of infuse a bit more flavor as well. I'm going to let those cook the same time as the steamed seitan. Now, while both seitans are cooking and kind of firming up a bit, I'm going to go ahead and prepare my broccoli. Now, this is just the broccoli for the broccoli and beef. I personally use all portions of the broccoli, stalk, crown, all that. I feel like it all tastes good, and honestly, after it's kind of had a chance to simmer in this sauce, everything ends up getting pretty, I guess, softened enough to where it's going to be good enough in the meal, and it's going to have a chance to kind of absorb that flavor. We're not going to add it quite yet to our broccoli and beef quite yet, but again, just preparing this so that we have less steps to do later on in the video. So now that we're finishing up this broccoli, our seitan should be getting ready about now to the beef seitan. We're actually going to take out and take it out of its tin foil. Now that it's firmed up, I'm also going to put it back into a beef flavored vegan broth. So now that they've kind of firmed up through steaming, they're not going to absorb as much of this salty beef broth flavor just because they've cooked a majority of their way through. But a lot of that flavor is still going to be able to kind of infuse into this and add a bit of that beefy flavor to the seitan itself, because right now it's savory, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's beefy yet. So this broth is really going to help incorporate that a bit. I'm also going to take out my chicken pieces, which if I can actually recall if I actually did enough pan in the video. As you see, these are a little bit lighter in color. They're a little more jiggly and soft as far as the texture. These are I'm going to set over to the side, and I won't necessarily need to boil these in broth again because, again, they've been cooking this entire time in broth. So I've gone ahead and got both of them set over to the side and cooled. I've also taken out the steak seitan pieces after they've been boiling in the broth for, maybe 5 to 7 minutes, and I've gone ahead and let those set those to the side. Gonna let those kind of steam off a bit to let some of that steam get on so they're not as wet. Once they have kind of cooled off a bit, I'm gonna start with my pieces for my General Tso's chicken. I'm just gonna kind of roll them in a bit of flour and cornstarch and set them over here on this plate to get them prepped to be deep fried, because they're going to be kind of like those little crunchy golden nuggets of chicken that we get from any of our favorite takeout spots.
Just woke up, tired as fuck. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm trying to look up, I fuck up. Every time I'm trying to hook up, this shit is complicated. I feel like my mind's inflating. Look, I'm not afraid to tell you I'm in pain. I tell you about the shit beyond the frame, beyond the games. I don't feel like I could fight right now. Lord, I need a little bit of light right now.
Finishing up here a little bit here, but as you can see, just coating them really well, making sure. Now, you feel free to season your flour as well. I chose not to for this particular recipe. From here, now that our rice is starting to cool a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and get the veggies for our fried rice kind of prepared. So this is completely an optional step. If you want to just go, oh, okay, bowl almost went everywhere. If you want to go ahead and just get some of your favorite frozen veggies, I recommend a mixture of corn, carrots, peas, bean sprouts, water chestnuts, any vegetables that you like in your traditional fried rice. I personally am, again, going to make this as a really simple recipe and just use peas, a combination of peas, corn, a little bit of onion, carrots, and I think that's going to be it. Those are going to be into this particular one. But I chose to actually shuck myself some sweet peas. About halfway through doing this, I realized I made a grave mistake and I should have just got frozen. Only because although these are absolutely delicious, I was eating them halfway through just completely raw. They're just so sweet and have a really nice crisp flavor to them. This takes forever. I'll show you at the end of this that I basically look in comparison of how many pods I have versus how many peas are actually from there. I mean, pods, peas. What's going on here? Well, anywho, we're gonna go ahead and jump over to our next vegetable. So I'm gonna go ahead here and just kind of shred up some carrots here. Now, I had some carrots that I had made a stock out of, so I saved all the end pieces and the little narrow pieces that I didn't necessarily want in the stock itself. So a lot of these carrots look like they're miniature ones, but they're actually just bits and pieces of other carrots that I've used. I've been really working on trying to cut down on food waste and just, use the absolute all pieces of any produce that I've been using, just because there's a crazy problem with food waste. I'm also just kind of lightly chopping up this onion as well. Just gonna add it right on top to the peas and carrots I've already got in that container. Now, I did use wisdom and chose to use frozen corn, so I'm just going to dump that on in there. No need to actually really show that in the video. I'm going to start with about a half a tablespoon of butter. We're going to start frying up these vegetables themselves. Again, this is a vegan butter as well. This is actually a little hint that I didn't even realize, as I've been using oil to fry my fried rice for years. You want to do it with butter. It just adds that extra level of richness, and it just really fries up the vegetables really nicely. And I personally like just the tone it adds to the dish itself. So just tossing in all my veggies, I'm just gonna give those a minute to kind of steam up and caramelize. Gonna add a few of my spices here at this point. So what I'm gonna go ahead and add is just a bit of garlic. We're just gonna go ahead and give this a shimmy, get everything nice and incorporated. As it starts to brown, I'm gonna add in another half tablespoon of butter, or maybe a whole tablespoon. I might have added a little bit more in here. It kind of can just play about